welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight, holy cow, we got another great show for you. And with my co-host, uh, David Null, Hawkeye, two brothers, welcome to the show.
With the rest of the dogs.
From cracking up here.
Got to practice. And as always, we greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And we continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And so we're hoping that you, despite all the commotion over the 4th of July, that you had good weekend and, good results with family and friends. So welcome everybody who shows up. We thank you as always. And back to you, Robert.
Oh, yeah. Tonight we got a great one. We're going to be talking about James Beckwourth. And it's quite the interesting story. This guy was everywhere. I mean, he just happened to luck out to be in pretty much everything. Anywhere, anytime there was something big going on, he was in it. Now, he wrote his own biography. So he wrote this with another guy he met, and they wrote it out. And he was a mountain man. He started out with Ashley's 100. He just became famous like pretty much all the other guys. He didn't die right away. He lived a pretty good long life. And as we'll go on tonight, we'll be finding out a little bit about him. But here's what we're going to be talking about tonight. The untold story of the Crow war chief. Well, he was born a slave, but he died a war chief. And tonight we travel deep into the untamed heart of American West, a land where legends were born, and they were carved out of blood, snow, and survival. And in the middle of the vast, violent wilderness lived a man, and he defied every label the world tried to put on him. His name was James Pearson Beckwourth, but they just call him P. Beckwourth, or I'm sure his buddies call him James. He was part African American, part European, and 100% unstoppable and lucky. They called him things like a trapper. He was a scout, fighter, a liar, a hero. But to the Crow Nation, he was known as a morning star, a warrior, a brother, and eventually their war chief. And Beckwourth didn't just visit native life, he lived it. He married into it. He fought for it. He bled for it and earned the kind and respect that very few white or black men ever received on the plains. That was so true. And yet, history nearly erased him. Beckwourth helped open new trade routes, guide wagon trains over the Sierras, and founded the pass that bears his name. He told his story in his own words, and they said it was too wild to believe. But let me tell you something, in a land where truth is stranger than fiction, James Beckwourth was the realest thing out there. So tonight, we shine our light on that legend they tried to bury, not because he was perfect, but because he was true. He was a bridge between the worlds, a man of fire and contradiction, and a reminder that the frontier doesn't just belong to one kind of man. It belonged to the bold. And James Beckwourth was bold enough to write his own name into the mountains. And that's where we start out tonight.
We're going to go looking deep now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so what we want to do, we're going to, he was born at the turn of the century. And
which one?
What? He was born at the beginning of the 18th century, in the 19th century.
1799, 1800, right?
1799, yeah. or 1798. We're not, nobody's too quite sure. But it was right around them. So, I've read in several books that it was 1799. Some said it was 1798. But either way, 1 year is really not going to make a difference. He was born in Fredericksburg, Virginia. His mother was a slave, an African-American woman. The father, though, his name was Sir Jennings Beckwourth, or Beckwourth, I should say, a white Virginian plantation owner. Now, he owned many slaves, but apparently he was fathering a lot of the children. Then they all packed up and they moved to St. Louis, Missouri territory. Remember, it wasn't even a state back then. It was a territory. And as a young boy, where he was eventually freed by his father. I guess he had to go to court 3 times in order to get him, freed somehow like that. Well, in the beginning, he was, oops, I don't know what happened to you there. You disappeared. Huh. Anyway, in the beginning, old Beckwourth, his father, well, let's go back. Let's go back as he was a kid. Now, remember, he's just a young lad, and his father was giving him jobs because, he was quite the ambitious young man. And he told him, here's a horse, and I want you to ride to town, and here's a big bag of corn. You take it to town and sell the corn. So he was about 10 years old or so, loaded up the bag of corn and rode to town. As he rode down the road to town, remember, they're living in Indian country back in the day, he came along one of his friend's houses that he knew very well. And in the yard, he pulls up on his horse and he says, hey, Hawkeye just left. Anyway, he pulls up in the yard and he says, hey, where's my friends? And he got to looking around and he sees the children's bodies laying all over, and they were all scalped. And he gets off his horse and he looks in the house, and the mother and the father are scalped and all his friends are dead. So he rides back to his father, and his father gathers a posse together, and with the posse they head on over to to find these Indians that had scalped this family and executed them. So a day or so later, I guess his father came back with 18 scalps. Now, as he grew up again, as he was growing up, he would sit around and listen to his father, who apparently fought in the Revolutionary War, talk about the war with his buddies, military and all of that good stuff. But eventually, his father sent him off to school, and Beckwourth received 4 years of schooling. So he learned to read, write. Apparently, he was a smart young man. And with that, that began his life. Remember, mountain men that could read and write were very important. Next thing you know, his father contracted him out to learn a job, a trade, because that's what they did in the day. And he teamed him up with a blacksmith. And
how old is he now? About
he had to be probably 17, 18, maybe 19, somewhere in there.
Okay,
and
so he was getting on up there.
Yeah, he's going to be a journeyman, and he was learning the trade of a blacksmith for a few years, but he got in a fight with the blacksmith guy, and well, they had a quarrel and he beat him up. Well, that didn't go so good, and he quit the job. Well, after he had quit his job there, he went back to the place he was staying, the boarding house, and the blacksmith guy showed up there too.
Am I the only one here? Um,
Okay, now I'm having problems.
yeah, did it stop you and throw you out?
Yes, yes, it did.
Yeah,
Uh,
that it did it to me twice now. So,
yeah. Well, it's a good thing
so
there's two of
ladies
us.
and gentlemen, our studio program, and there's a note right here that says studio studio instability issues
Yeah.
with StreamYard, and that their engineers are working feverishly to straighten them out.
I
And the
hope so.
new version of Chrome is messing with them. And so I wish Chrome had quit updating every 2 weeks or so and messing all my settings up. But so if we drop out on you tonight, it's quite likely it's going to be the studio instability issues. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, shall we continue on?
yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you
Before we
very
have
much.
a yes, technical difficulties. Anyway, as we go on, the blacksmith came to the boarding house where he was staying, and Beckwourth Beckwourth beat him up again. They got in a brawl, and he beat him up. And eventually, the cops were summoned, and the police showed up, and he pulled something you would not do today. He pulled a gun on the cop and told him, "You leave me alone, or you won't be going home." Well, the cop went home and left him be. Something you probably wouldn't do nowadays. So don't try that kind of stuff. Uh,
Nope.
So anyway, with that, he eventually he took off again. Well, no, he was already in Missouri, but he found this ad in a paper or somewhere, and which was Ashley with the fur company trade looking for men, young men, to go west and gain riches, fortune, and fame, or die trying. And so he signed up for that, became one of Ashley's 100 fur trapper men sent off into the wilderness to trap and do fur trading and become mountain men. How crazy is that? Well, as he went west, he met up with some of the best and brightest mountain men out there, people like uh, Jim Bridger, um, pretty much everyone we talked about in the last few days, or last few weeks, I should say. Um, and they became, you know, his mentors, his friends, and more. Well, when he signed out he became part of this dangerous, lucrative world of Rocky Mountain fur trade. And of course, he learned survival trapping, scouting, frontier diplomacy from people who'd already been out there, like Jim Bridger, I mentioned, and Jedediah Smith. These guys were professionals. Now, this was
Can I
about.
interject? Can I
Go ahead.
interject something here?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was to the benefit of the older folks when he joined.
Yes, it was to the benefit. Well, technical difficulties with Hawkeye. Anyway, we'll just have to wait for him to come back. But he was out there. He was learning. He was a big guy, too. He was around 6 foot tall. So he's big and strapping and muscular. He could do a lot of work, tell you that. What were you saying? Got your back?
Yep. Sorry about that. But that it was to their benefit to make him part of the gang, because as they walked and talked and trapped and did their thing, they agreed amongst themselves to work together. You know, they each went off and trapped, but they decided to work together. And that,
Yeah.
as if one needed help, they'd go help the other guy. So they all kind of like the Three Musketeers, they all shook hands and they agreed on that. And
Well,
that's another thing that made them very successful.
when this
Did we lose him?
Indians, you know, they're trapping these pelts and things like that. There I am. I'm back. Anyway, the point is the pelts were very valuable, and Indian attacks and bears and who knows what else is out there that could get you, and you need a friend to back you up while you're sleeping, or while you're awake, and because the Indians would come and take your horses. Okay, so
or take you and all your stuff, or so yeah, that it was hard to stay awake all the time. So it was nice to have somebody to stand guard at night, to take turns. And
yes.
Over the long run, it made him very effective too.
Yep. Anyway, so he joined this Ashley's 100 in 1822, and in 1824 he was captured and adopted by the Crow Nation. And how was this to happen, you say? Well, it's because of big talk. Mountain men love to talk big. Okay? So when they got captured, one of his friends, I don't know exactly which guy, told the chief that Beckwourth was the long lost son of
the long lost son, huh? Man, this program is really being shifty tonight. But yeah, back then they could spin a yarn.
Oh, there I am. I'm back. Anyway,
long lost
son of a chief that was lost many years ago. And because Beckwourth, was a black man, they believed him. They were like, oh my gosh, he is. Well,
I wonder if they had a picture of the original guy so they could compare it. It's like, oh, well, that's what his daddy looked like, and that he looks like his daddy,
Yeah. So anyway, because he was a big man and he was probably muscular and smart, of course they wanted to adopt him. So he was adopted into the tribe. He learned their ways, and he stayed with them for a lot of years. From 1824 to 1837, he lived among the Crow Nation. He gained their trust and made him. It made it easier for him to trade and trap, because if he's trapping in Crow country, they're not going to kill him. He's one of them. So he had it made. He fought with the Indians with their tribal wars. He married a Crow woman, and he had fully integrated into their society. I think he chased this woman, as the story goes. Her name was
did it give any indication,
something like that?
I'm sorry. Did it give any indication as to how it sounds like? Hi there. I'm a black man, and will you adopt me? I mean, it almost seems. I wonder how long did it take him to adopt him? Does it give any?
No, but I think, like I said, I think they said a lot of it was because they thought he was the chief's long lost son. So they basically, it says they adopted him, but they kind of try to welcome him back into the family.
Right. Well, I understand, but so it was relatively quick, is where I was headed with this.
Yes.
So
exactly.
They looked at him and said, "Wow," and looked and talked amongst themselves, and the next thing you know, he's in like Flynn with the Crow community. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, and he became a war chief. Apparently he fathered many children. And but then he chased after one woman. Her name was Little Pine Leaf or something like that, and he chased after her for a long time, and he couldn't win her heart over because her first husband or her brother, oh, she had a twin brother, that's what it was. Her twin brother was killed by another tribe, the Blackfeet, and after he was killed, she swore vengeance that she was going to kill 100 Blackfoot Indians before she would settle down. So she went out with all the war parties to fight the other tribe, and she did a good job at it. Apparently, she wasn't the strongest, but she had one of the fastest horses, they said. Anyway, she could shoot, and she could scalp and do all of that stuff, but apparently he liked her like that. Eventually, what happened is that one day after a war party, and he was in it, went out, didn't come back for many a days, and he was assumed to be dead. And when he did show back up, they said she gave up, and she said, "I miss you too much," and she married him. And about 6 months later, he said, "I gotta go. I'm out of this tribe." So it makes you wonder if we're going to get the show.
Really? They assumed he was dead.
Yeah, they assumed that he was dead, and the girl cried, and she realized how much she missed him. When he showed back up, she gave it up, and she said she'd marry him, and she did. And about 6 months later, he gave up the tribe and said, "I gotta go."
Oh.
And what makes you wonder if he was just sticking around for because he had to conquer that mountain, Who knows? But
he was there for 18 years. Well, no.
About 6 years.
So
in 1837, he returned to civilization, and he left the Crow life and began to work as a guide and a scout. He joined forces with Charles and William Bent at Bent's Fort, a major training post in Colorado. He assisted in fur trading, guiding caravans, and building relationships with other tribes. He was also a courier between Bent's Fort and St. Louis. Well, here's one kind of a cool thing with him is when he was in Colorado, he set up his own trading post, of all places, in Pueblo, Colorado, and founded the city of Pueblo, Colorado. Believe it or not. Isn't that interesting? Way to leave your mark on the world. Huh? Yeah.
Did he get any money for that?
No. So anyway, after he did that, about the 1840, he went to, oh, wait a minute, where is this? He left the Crow life. Okay, in 1840, moved west to California and in the Sierra Nevadas. Oh, but before that, he actually went, so somewhere in that time period, I'm not exactly sure when, he had went to Florida. They were looking for volunteers to go to Florida and fight the war with the Seminole Indians. And he went there and he fought the Seminoles, but he didn't enjoy it. It was too hot. And as he said, they didn't have any good horses to steal. So Beckwourth gave it up and came back out west. Well, when he came back out west, he went out to California next. Actually, he went out to Taos, New Mexico, and he met up with a woman there and got married again. Then he moved back to Pueblo, Colorado, stayed there a little while. Then he said, "Wife, I gotta go," and he left, went to California, where he he went out there for the gold rush, actually, somewhere in that period of time. He moved west, so somewhere between 1840 and 1848. He was there just before the gold rush. Now I'm giving you highlights, people, because there's so much about this guy. I suggest you go read his autobiography. So somewhere in there, he moved west to California and the Sierra Nevadas, and in 1850 discovered the Beckwourth Pass. But he was out there and he was one of the smart ones. Put it this way, he was one of the smart ones. He didn't really gold mine so much, but what did he do? What did he know? He knew how to trade. So he took a bunch of stuff out there and opened a general store. Now, I don't know exactly how long that general store was open, but he was selling stuff to the miners. And eventually he sold his general store, making a pretty good profit. He also then went to another city in California. I can't remember, it was San Diego or San Francisco or one of those places. But he became a professional gambler for a while. Now, this guy seems to have done it all. And he became a professional gambler. Well, after he got bored... Go ahead.
I was going to say that what he was doing by selling and trading was gambling of a sorts.
Yes.
Because you've got a product and you're trying to get the most, gold for this product. So, how much is that shovel back there? Well, it's, $12.99. $12.99, yes, sir. Well, I'll give you, 2 bits for it. No, it's, how about $5? No, that's not so a lot of bartering, going on back then and discussing of prices. So he knew how to barter, and he knew in a way how to cheat. But because anybody that's in that kind of profession, there are times when they get such a good deal that they're almost cheating the customers. And but that's the business, right?
That's right.
So, but so for him to go out and go into gambling is not a hard stretch, in my opinion. Plus, he decided to make his gold without digging it.
That's right.
And so when he sold everything out, it sounds like he had a pretty good nest egg, so he could go gambling.
Yep.
And support his habit. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So somewhere in that time period, remember there was the Spanish-American War just before California became the Spanish gave up California. And so he did what he knows best, what he learned from the Crow, was to steal horses. And he stole 1,800 horses from the Mexicans. And he drove these horses back out west to Colorado, where he sold them off and made a huge profit, and then bought a ranch and became a rancher for a little while. When he got back out west, he met up with his wife, Louisa, and, didn't turn out so good. She thought he was dead, and so she married another man. And when he came back, she said she was going to leave him. She'd leave the other man and go back with him, but he said, I got better things to do, and he left. And again, there was Indian wars to fight. So he joined up as a scout for the cavalry, the military out there. And unfortunately, he participated in the Battle of Sand Creek. was the Battle of Sand Creek. Do you remember what that battle was?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, well, I'll refresh you on the Battle of Sand Creek. The
Please
Battle
do.
of Sand Creek was the battle where
It's the battle where everybody got by the creek and had a battle, and they warred with one another. And, you know, and one said to the other, "Aye."
there I am. I'm back. Oh, so
I'm making up stuff.
so that was Shivington's battle. This is the one where he said, I'm gonna go out and fight Indians, and it was like December or something like that. And he went out and he found what was it, the Black Bear or something like that, his encampment, this Indian chief who was told that if he flew the American flag and he settled down where the military had told him, that they could live peacefully among the white people. And so they did. When Shivington came over the hill and seen there was a bunch of Indians there, he got his cannons out, and in the midst of the morning air, he brought his cannons and his troops, and they fired upon the village, killing up to, between 300 and 500 people, mostly women and children, and then they burned all the teepees and all their supplies for the winter, and whoever escaped had to just run off into the cold with whatever they had. It was devastating. That's basically what started and united that's the battle that actually united all the Indians, because they realized that at that point that the Americans didn't tell the truth and the treaties didn't matter, because they signed the treaty, told you what to do, and then they got the military out there to attack you when you were thinking you were safe.
So right? Did the guys know that there was a treaty?
Oh, Shivington was just looking for Indians. That's all he cared about. He was one of those guys.
So he knew there was a treaty.
Oh yeah. He knew about all this stuff. He just said the only Indian is a dead one. That's the only good Indian. He was a dead one.
He was a pioneer a-hole, right?
Yes, he was.
Back in the day,
he was tried. They tried to try him, but he quit the military, so they couldn't prosecute him.
Oh, so well, that was good. At least they tried, right?
Yeah, but he just quit, so they couldn't do nothing to him. But
yeah,
a lot of they did prosecute a bunch of the soldiers who did participate in there. Beckwourth did not actually, participate, as they say, but he was there. He didn't stop it, but he was there. So, and in the Indian eyes, they kind of criminalized him at that. So he lost face with the Indians, not just the Crow, but all, especially the Cheyenne, because he became an interpreter and a peace treaty guy. And, he was the guy that would go, because he knew the natives and he knew how to speak the Crow language. So he only needed like an interpreter, and he could talk with the Indians and make treaties and discuss diplomacies and things like that.
But after this incident, then the Indians didn't trust him, correct?
Yes. Especially the Cheyenne, because they were the ones that were attacked. David will be back in a second. Oh, we are having issues tonight. StreamYard is not doing so good. So anyway,
I got my hand on the button.
Yeah, I know. It'll be my turn next. Anyway, I shouldn't speak so fast. But anyway, what was I going to say? It was on the tip of my tongue. Oh yeah. So like I said, he was getting older at this point, but yet he was still, doing lots of stuff. He decided to go back to California. And when he did, he found the Beckwourth Pass, a pass through the Sierra Mountains. And we're going to show you a little bit of that here in a second. as I got it pulled up. You're going to say, what's so important about this pass? Well, it was an easy route. It wasn't mountainous. I don't know how he found it, but he found it, and it was a great way to get from or through the Rocky Mountains, or Sierra Nevadas anyway. And here we go. We're going to share this, and as you can see, this is the Beckwourth Pass going through the mountains. This was very important. It's still there today, and they use it. So he went out there, found this pass, and then what did he do? He set up a hotel and a trading post. Because, hey, that's what any good mountaineer would do. It's if you're gonna find a pass, an easy way through the mountains, you're gonna set up a hotel. And Webster Station, Sugarloaf Mountain. There you go. So there he set up the pass and was making money by selling supplies to the travelers going through the pass.
And
you can't beat that now.
And he realized that there would be stagecoaches going through. It was just like, there's going to be people coming through here. I think, what's the best thing I could do? Build a. He's already done a general store before, right?
Yeah.
He's already got that experience. He knows what to do. He knows how to get there. He's probably still got people in the business back east, and so smart man.
Yeah, I know. Very smart man. As you can see by this map, they named a lot of stuff after him. Beckwourth Peak, Beckwourth Town, and the summit of Beckwourth Pass. And here's some of the trails going across the country to get to California. As you can see here, there's here's a Pony Express Trail. Like I said, these were all west. And then you have the Beckwourth Pass that's way down here by the time, but we're going to go to here. There's where we're going to go next. Okay. And then this is the Oregon Trail. As you can see, you got to go through all of this, going up through the mountains to get to Oregon, and then you could travel down the coast to get to California. But eventually, you can see where here's the Santa Fe Trail, the Mormon Trail, the California Trail, the Oregon Trail, and then of course going through here is where the Beckwourth Pass would have been, right in here somewhere, as we can see from this map. From the states wise, then here's California and Nevada, and the Beckwourth Pass is right here. So, and we're going to get rid of this one, and there you go. So the Beckwourth Pass is right in there somewhere. So pretty cool to know that they did put train tracks through there. Beckwourth Pass. So if you ever get out there, I mean, you walk train tracks or something, I mean, it's quite the important spot. If you ever get out there, go see it, check it out, things like that, because, hey, there's nothing like real history.
And, having, both of us have been out. Didn't you go out to Idaho?
Yeah, I've been to Idaho before.
Yeah, and I camped up in the Bitter Roots, and I'll tell you what, until you experience it firsthand, people telling you how grandiose the mountains are, and how steep the cliffs are, and how clear the water is, and how cold it is at higher elevations, and you just it's all just a story until you visit, and then it's like, ding, oh my God, this is what it's like. And for me, even though I went out west only one time, I still remember the whole trip. You know, I still remember those places we stopped and got out and went, oh, wow, you know. And so, yeah, it's for me, you know, it's been 25 years now. Yep, 1999. So,
Yep,
but yeah, if you can visit someplace, it's
that's right.
worth it. It's worth it.
That's right. So now what stories do we know about? Um, okay, so let's see. Okay, so we're going to talk about one of his Beckwourth's great adventures. So he wasn't born into the Crow tribe, but by the time he was done proving himself, they called him Morning Star, and he rode as one of their feistiest war chiefs. The story goes back to the high plains of what is now Montana, where Beckwourth had been living with a crow with the crow for several seasons. He had earned their trust through his bravery in hunting and battle, and now they looked at him as both a brother and a leader. Tensions has been rising with the Blackfeet, powerful and bitter rival. Raids has escalated, horses stolen, warriors killed. One night, a Crow scout returned to camp, breathless, with the news a small hunting party had been ambushed by the Blackfeet near Little Bighorn. We all know where that is, in Montana. Two Crow hunters were dead, and their scalps had been taken. And that was all Beckwourth needed to hear. At dawn the next morning, Beckwourth called the warriors together. He wore his finest war gear, feathers in his hair, his black powder rifle slung across his chest, and a painted buffalo robe draped over his shoulders. He spoke not as an outsider, but as a Crow. "We ride today," he said, "for our brothers who were taken, for the horses they stole, and for the pride of our people." The warriors answered with cries that echoed across the plains. They rode hard for 2 days, tracking the Blackfeet through forest and scrub. Beckwourth read the land like a book. Broken twigs, fire pits, a single feather stuck in his sagebrush. One morning, on the third morning, they found the Blackfeet camped, nestled in a narrow ravine. Beckwourth told the warriors to wait until dark. "We strike like shadows," he whispered, "and leave none behind." When the sun dropped behind the hills, the Crow descended. What followed was chaos, war cries and musket shots, arrows flashing through the firelight. Beckwourth fought with brutal precision, wielding both rifle and tomahawk. He spotted the Blackfeet war chief, trying to escape on horseback, and cut him down himself. By dawn, the Blackfeet camp was in ruins, and the stolen horses, along with the Crow scalps, were reclaimed. That night, back in camp, the Crow elders held a feast in Beckwourth's honor. They declared him a full member of the tribe, not by blood, but by fire. They called him leader, a brother, a warrior whose spirit walked with the ancestors, and through James Beckwourth would one day walk many more trails. As a scout, a trader, and founder of towns, he always said being named a Crow war chief was the greatest honor of his life. So, anyway, what happened to him after that? Well, remember, he went out as a trader, went to California, become a pioneer in the gold rush. But by 1856, he met this guy, Thomas B. Bonner. And this guy, he helped him write his memoirs and a book called The Life and Adventures of James P. Beckwourth. The book chronicled his adventures, his life with the Crow, and the travels across the West. It was very controversial. Some say exaggerated, but it's now considered one of the most important first person's accounts in the early West. Yeah, they had people go through his book, and he got some of the things wrong, but he got a lot of stuff that was very accurate. Now, Remember, he's about 56, 57 years old, and he is still going strong. He continued working for the U.S. Army as a scout and an interpreter during conflicts with the Plains Indians. He served at Fort Laramie and Fort Kearny, guiding troops and negotiating the naval people. In 1866, he was serving as an interpreter for the Crow delegation at a peace council at Fort Laramie. But eventually, he decided, of all things, to go back to the Crow tribe where he was most happy. Oops. Sorry about that. He went back to the Crow tribe where he was most happy. In his final days, they said he got a cough, he had headaches, there was something going on with him. Nobody knew exactly why, but he went back with the Crow to live with them, and they say his death was caused possibly by an illness, and then there was rumors that he was possibly poisoned, though it was kind of unconfirmed. And they said that he might have been poisoned because of the dealings he had with the Cheyenne during that attack, but nobody can really say. And he died as he lived on the frontier in the service of both worlds. He died in the Crow as a Crow tribe member, and the Crow buried him in a tree according to their traditions. So
in a tree.
Yeah, well, they take the body, they put it up there, and it's outside, they put it up, and then when the bones and stuff fall away and whatever, they go collect the bones, and then they bury the bones or do something with them. Remember, I think we talked about the burial traditions one time.
I must have been absent.
Yeah, no, it was burial traditions. Like Indians didn't believe in burying the dead bodies. That was a white man tradition, and they would set them on the little things, and then when the bones deteriorated, they would come back and pick their bones up, and then they would take them home, and then they would bury them somewhere else or do something with them.
I just don't remember the tree thing. That's all.
Well, tree or something.
It sounds very practical. And that's what I was going to lie. I'm like, well, that's a good idea,
Yeah.
Instead of building a structure to raise them up, and they just found a tree and stuck them up there. I think that's a good idea. It shows the common sense practicality they had.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, who doesn't want practicality, right?
And common sense.
And common sense. Anyhow, Pajo says we lived for a while on the Beckwourth Pass, and the train tracks were behind the house. See, I think they thought Beckwourth Pass was shorter than the Donner Pass. There you go. So it could be make a great field trip, as Elderberry said. So with that, like I said, he lived a very interesting life. He was in the Ashley's 100. He fought the Blackfeet. He did a lot of stuff. He became a Crow chief. And then he wrote his own autobiography, kind of thing. And, you can't ask more from a guy way back then. I mean, he seemed like he was a little bit everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. Yeah, I think that's about all I have on him. Oops. We lost Hawkeye. Oh, he's coming right back. There you are. I have to get on with this show because before we lose you, before you can read your story.
If I can get through it.
That's right. If you can get through it. Anyway, we got a great story for you all tonight. Like I said, that was about all I have on James Beckwourth for the moment. He does have a book out there, And if you get a chance, go buy the book, the autobiography. Just type in James Beckwourth, and there are several books out there. But what an interesting guy! Think about it. He was born as a slave in the turn of the 19th century, and became a free man, became a mountain man, a scout, a gambler, a store owner, a rancher, a Crow Indian chief, fought in different wars, went from Florida, fighting the Seminoles, all the way up to fighting the Plains Indians. I mean, you name it. He was there, being on the gold rush of 1848, 49, and then living long enough to know that the Civil War happened, and then, till it was over, and then knowing that, all black men were free. Can you imagine how your life just, I mean, he's seen, everything from, modern day stuff. I mean, you got to remember, that's when the world was really changing.
Oh, yeah.
Because when he probably went out to the West, first off, there was no towns, there was lots of buffalo. And by the time he died, the buffalo were,
the buffalo were pretty much gone, and the railroads were coming in, and people were moving west, and it did not look the same. In 10 years' time, the West looks so much different.
Yeah. It was all changed up and different, and amazing, right? Amazing times to be alive. Like I said,
let me add a couple of things. One is that it meant that he was a great man, and he owned, but he was a great businessman, because he was able to start these businesses and sell them, not go under, but sell them and make a profit, and the fact that he learned the trade to how to trade, he probably invented some of the trading that went on, like with the rendezvous stuff, I mean, he probably knew about that. And in certain ways, he probably thought, a rendezvous, I'll just set up a store, and everybody can rendezvous at the store. And that's basically what happened, And so, and back in those days, the general store, was that place to be. So he was very, very smart in that he was able to do all that and get along with the Indians. That's one hell of a businessman right there. I mean, it's sort of like Trump in The Art of the Deal, in that, he went to all these different places and did all these different businesses as a black man and as a semi-Indian, but he succeeded in everything that he did. That's, to me, that's phenomenal. Where is his statue?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they got some plaques, but I don't know.
What? I don't know if there is one, but my point is that, here is all these things that as a black man he did before the Civil War, and attained his own freedom and all these things. Where are the black people who should be standing up for this guy? They should be standing. Look at this. Look at what this guy did. And talk about a true American. Look at what this guy did. And you should model yourself after that guy.
That's right.
Not some thug or whatever in the hood, but so my 10 cents is that, I wish some of the folks in the black community would choose dear Jimmy right there, Mr. James, and lift him up from the pages of the history past, and Anyway,
Absolutely. Well, see, that's another thing is these guys back in the day, um, but he was, I see from a few things in him. I think he was very impatient and he didn't stay with something very long either.
or
Just like
wives.
the general store, the different wives. I guess he was married multiple times, had bunches of different kids all over the place, but he never stayed anywhere too long. Never put much for roots down. He'd get married, then he'd leave. Met up with an Indian bunch, didn't stay for a while, went out west, get bored, buy a general store, have it for a month.
And then he'd go further out west and find find that passageway into California, IA. But yeah, so it seems like he had a restless soul. I mean, even staying with the Crow, he might have been with them for, I was counting up, 13 years ish. And that in those 13 years, you know, they probably traveled around a lot and with war parties and hunting parties. And that was probably right up James's alley. You know, he was able to move around the way they did and not put his roots down. Although his roots were with the Crow Indian nation for those 13 years, he didn't put any roots down in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. He didn't put any roots down in the ground. He wanted to keep moving. Always on the travel, looking for a new adventure. But hey, I don't blame him. I mean, think about it. I mean, if you realize where you're at or what's going on, the world is just so full of cool things to do back in those days. I mean, discover something, set up your own. You can start a town here. I think I'll start a general store here and make a town. And I got the town going. I'm out of here. Let's go to California and pan for gold. Well, we did that and, started a store there. Sold that. I become a gambler then. And then I lost all my money. So I got some horses and I went back to sold them off. And then I started a ranch. And then I, got bored with that. So I joined the military again for $50 a month so I could go fight Indians in Florida, or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then he'd have a big old ranch out west, and he gave it up to go, be a scout.
Yeah.
Like okay, it's almost like well, I achieved it. I proved to myself, and maybe to some others, but I bet you it was more that he proved it to himself that he could do it.
He could do it.
I think that was his impetus for doing what he did, which ain't bad, mind you. I want to see if I can climb that mountain. I want to see if I can rebuild this 427 engine, and I want to see if I can, do whatever it is. And there we go, split screen again. But so, the heart of a pioneer, the heart of a mountain man. I mean, there's just something in their chest that they just gives them that drive, that want to do it, got to do it. And even when that one guy lost his arm or whatever, he still went on.
That's right. That's right. Well, I got the story put up and we're ready to go.
We have thunderstorms here that are getting kind of loud and frisky. So,
okay. Well, before we lose
in case the lights, because the lights could flicker and everything would go out and I would have to reboot. So,
let's get on with it.
Let me find. Yes, boss man.
Well,
wait, come back here.
You go down too.
Yeah, that too. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, oh goodness. Where's my button at? Okay. So my dear friends, I'm still reading from the book, the Indian books, Glooscap Country and Other Indian Tales by Cyrus McMillan in 1922. Tonight's story is The Duck with Red Feet. A hunter in the old times lived on the bank of a river far away in the Canadian forest. He passed all his days in the deep woods where he had great success in catching and killing game. There was no better hunter than he in all the country. Every evening he returned to his home, bringing his day's catch with him. His father and mother were both dead, and he had no sister. He had only one brother. This brother was very small. He was so small that the hunter kept him in a little box. When he went away in the morning to hunt, he always closed the box up tight so that his little brother could not get out. For he feared that if he got out, harm would come to him. Every night he took him out of the box to give him food, and the little man was so hungry that he always ate a great lot of food. The little man slept always with his brother, but every morning he was carefully locked up in the box. And in time he grew tired of his prison. One evening, as the hunter came down the river from his hunting journey, he saw a very beautiful girl sitting on the bank of the stream. He decided he would catch her and take her home to be his wife, for he was lonely. He paddled to the beach as silently as he could, but she saw him coming and she jumped into the water and disappeared. She went to her home at the bottom of the river and told her mother that the hunter had tried to catch her. But her mother told her that she should not have run away. She said, "The hunter who tried to catch you was intended to be your husband. You must wait for him tomorrow and tell him you will be his wife." The next night, as the hunter came down the river, the girl was again sitting on the bank. He paddled over as he had done on the evening before, but this time she did not run away. She said, "I have been waiting for you. You may take me for your wife." And the man, well pleased with his beautiful prize, placed her in his canoe and took her home. He did not tell her of his little brother in the box. He cooked a beaver for the evening meal. He and his wife ate half of it, but he placed the other half away in the cupboard. Then he told his wife to go to sleep, and she went to bed and soon fell asleep. When she awoke in the morning, her husband had gone for his daily hunting, for he had to leave early to go a long distance into the forest. She found, too, that the half of the beaver he had put in the cupboard was gone, and she wondered what had become of it. That evening, when her husband came home, he cooked another beaver for their meal. Again, they ate half of it, and the man placed the other half of it to one side. But not a word did he say of his brother in the box. Then the man sent his wife to bed as on the previous night, and soon she was fast asleep. When she awoke in the morning, her husband was gone for his day's hunting. The half of the beaver which he had placed to one side was also gone, but she knew that he had not taken it. She was afraid, and all day she wondered where the meat had gone. She decided that she would find out what had happened to it. That night, when her husband came home, he cooked half a moose for their evening meal. They ate part of it, and the man placed the remainder of it to one side as usual. Then he told his wife to go to sleep. She went to bed and pretended to sleep, but she stayed wide awake, peeping through half-closed eyelids. When her husband thought she was sleeping soundly, he unlocked a little box that stood on a low shelf and took out a little man, all red from head to heels, and gave him the moose meat he had put to the side. The little man ate every bit of it. He looked very strange. He was all red from head to heels, as if he were covered with red paint, and he said not a word. When he had greedily eaten all the meat, the man washed him and combed his hair, and then put him back in the box and locked him up. The woman wondered greatly at this strange happening, but she could not keep from laughing heartily to herself because of the funny appearance of the little man. The next day, the man left early for his day's hunting. When she was sure he was far away, she thought she would take a peep at the queer little red man in the box. She found the key hanging on the wall and opened the box and called to the little man to come out. But he would not come out. He seemed to be very much afraid of her. She coaxed him to come out, but he refused. And then she caught him and pulled him out. He looked at her for a long time, but he would not say a word. Then he ran to the door, which was open, and with a sudden jump, he sprang into the air and disappeared. The woman called to him, but he would not come back. He was never seen again. The woman was very much afraid, but she was more frightened when she looked at her hands. They were all red because she had caught the little red man, and many red spots were on her arms and on her feet where the red coloring from the man had dropped. She tried to wash off the red spots, but she could not remove them. She washed and rubbed all her hands all day, but the stains would not come off. When her husband came home in the evening, he knew when he saw her red hands what had happened. He knew that his brother of the box had gone, and he was very angry. He seized a rod and ran at her to beat her. She was afraid he would kill her, and she ran to the river and jumped in to go back to her old home. But as she reached the water, she was changed from what she was. At once, she became a sheldrake duck. The red spots remained on her, and the sea could not wash them off. And to this day, the sheldrake duck has red stains on her feet and feathers because she was curious and took the funny little red man from the box in the olden days. The end. And next week's story is The Boy Who Was Called Thickhead. How about that one?
Cool.
The Duck with Red Feet.
Sounds good.
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
It was.
And knock on wood, no drops.
That's right. Maybe it's getting better as time goes on. No thunderstorm's gonna keep you from reading that story.
Well, we had had the spirits on me, and I jumped a couple of lines in there, and I was like, uh-oh. I don't have the glasses on, and my new eyes I'm still getting adjusted to them. So sometimes my focus goes out, and I'm like, where was I? But I'm a professional, and I can find my place pretty soon, pretty quick.
Right.
So what time is it?
We're doing really good on time. Might actually
Wow.
get done before midnight.
Well, I didn't preset the cards, but it doesn't take me but a minute, so I'd be shuffling them while we'd be talking.
Yep. Well, we got it was a good story, a little short, but hey, that's all right. Some days short stories are better. But they'll get reposted eventually, and you guys can all listen to them again. A Milky Way short. But who knows what kind of crazy mountain man we're going to talk about next week. Oh, there he goes. He's taking a short break from the show while he shuffles the cards. Good to see everybody here. Elderberry, Lucky Stone, Pod Joe, Sunset Dreamer. Who else is here?
Just like that.
All the people that came to visit us tonight. Thank you all so much for being here, especially in the summer. People don't like to sit and watch YouTube videos when it's summertime because they got other important things to do. Am I right?
Yeah, well, not at 12 o'clock at night, but
That's right.
Or 11 o'clock at night.
I hope everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. Safe one anyway. And got plenty more weekends coming up. And good time to have a little campfire, sit around, roast some s'mores or marshmallows, make some s'mores, get your kids all jacked up on sugar highs, and let them run around like crazy, right?
Yeah, drink a bunch of soda pop.
That's it, exactly. And I'm sure they do. So hey, a lot of fun. Go on an old hay wagon ride. I know when I worked at the ranch, we gave hay wagon rides and had campfires and people playing guitars and singing and played all those games like telephone and telling ghost stories and things like that. Good times.
Yeah, and snipe hunting.
Boy, I tell you, you want to hear a story about me snipe hunting? Oh my gosh. So we were out at the ranch. We had a bunch of kids that were about all between the age
about the age of, I guess he's fixing to drop out. So have y'all picked your cards for this week? I got 3 of them picked, selected.
I'm
Boy,
back.
looks like it's going to be a short deck this week.
Anyway, so they're going to take all these kids snipe hunting that night. And they were going to take them in the woods. They all gave them a stick and a white bag, which was a pillow sack, a pillow cover. And so all the kids grabbed their, sacks and their sticks, and they went out into the woods. Well, once they got into the woods, they had little flashlights, and you got 40, 50 kids out there with a flashlight, and the lights are all streaming around, and kids are screaming, and things like that, and they're talking. I thought I'd play a good joke on them. So I go and I grab a buffalo robe. We had buffalo hides laying all over the place, and as decoration. So I grabbed one off the wall, threw this buffalo robe on, and went up to the top of the hill where the kids were going. And I ran through the woods, and I got out there, and I found a good clear spot, and got on my hands and knees, and threw the buffalo robe over me. And then I started moving around from side to side, making a little noise. When those kids come up upon me, the activity director girls weren't expecting that. And of course, they're old enough for their minds to, think of things. And the next thing you know, one of the activity girls goes, "It's a bear!" And the other one goes, "It's a bear!" And they started to scream, and the kids shined the light on me, and I was all lit up, and the kids screamed, and they all went running down out of the woods, down the hill. Oh my God, yelling and screaming, "It's a bear! It's a bear! Oh my God, it's a bear!"
And it was little old you.
It was. And once the kids had all disappeared, I quick ran back through the woods, put the buffalo robe.
And the buffalo robe. So this week, I don't know the rest of the story. So there you are.
I threw the buffalo robe back on the wall, and the kids, I guess, were so scared. None of them slept that night. Half of them called their parents, and the next day they all loaded up and on buses and left the ranch. And oh boy, and they said they were never coming back to this place again. And I came into work, and I was called into the office. Our manager lady, or general manager lady, sat me down, and she says, "I know it was you. I got no proof, but I know that you're the kind of guy that would do that kind of stuff." And I never admitted to it, but I said, "Well, I am. I'm the kind of guy. What happened?" I just played dumb, because if I would have admitted to it, she probably would have fired me. But since I didn't say anything, I just kept my mouth shut and played dumb. I got no proof. I was like, "Oh, good, you got no proof. Well, that's the way it is." And boy, that was one of the funniest things I ever did. Oh my gosh, I will never forget that day. Scaring all those kids, and the funny part is the activity director girls, who were probably about 18 or 19 years old, they were the most scared out of all of them, and they were the ones that created the panic. And they just trampled over the kids. They were the first ones down the hill and running for their lives. And all I kept saying the next day, all I said to them is, there's no bears around here. There's no brown bears. There's no bears. Have you ever seen a bear? No, but I did last night. I'm thinking, oh man. So you're gonna take all the little kids out snipe hunting and you see a bear. It was a lot of fun. Yep, it was a lot of fun. So what do we got for cards? Anybody pick a card tonight? Oh yeah, Lucky says cowbird, mouse, and salamander. There is no salamander, there is no cowbird. So pick again. Frog. There is a frog. Elderberry says frog. Hummingbird. Okay. So there we go. Elderberry's frog and hummingbird.
Nope.
Lucky, what you got? Nope, none of that. Okay.
So here are the cards for tonight.
Okay.
And we have the presence of deer, straight up. Bat, straight up. Buffalo, upside down. Lynx, which we keep getting lynx. It's right side up. Eagle, upside down. And maybe mountain lion.
Lynx and what?
Eagle.
I lost you. Eagle.
And maybe mountain lion. So starting off with deer, that's one of my favorite ones. So
and it looks like we lost David. About the time we come up with something, that's when things go all awry, and he will be back shortly as we go from buffalo to deer to lynx. Oh boy, do we got the stuff for you tonight. This is going to be quite the spread, as long as we can get through it, and maybe with finishing off with mountain lion, of course. So, but anyway, we're going to start out with David's the deer, and the deer is quite the critter. Does anybody know what the deer represents? And there you go. You're back. You're back.
I was just reading away and went, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, you said, and the deer is one of my favorites, and that was it.
That was
Chloe's in the house. Chloe says squirrel, hawk, butterfly, beaver, and dog. Nope, wrong. Sorry.
Nope. So deer is gentleness. So, but deer was on the trail to Sacred Mountain to see the Great Spirit, to talk to the Great Spirit. And so there's a mean old demon that guards the path to keep anybody from coming up. Scares everybody away. And so deer, with its gentleness, went up to the demon and just won its heart and turned its heart into, from this big old nasty thing into the size of a walnut. So the deer was able to go on up Sacred Mountain. And so because of what deer has done, the path to Sacred Mountain is always open. So that means to all of us, Sacred Mountain is open. The Creator is open. The path is open. You follow? So we're starting out with deer right there, with the gentleness of deer and conversation and being and so forth. And so we go from the front of the book to the back of the book with bat. Number 42. And we haven't had bat in a while, so it's interesting. So we have gentleness with deer, and bat is rebirth. So steep in the mystery of the Mesoamerican tribe ritual is the legend of bat, akin to the ancient Buddhist belief in reincarnation. and also in Central America. Bat is the symbol of rebirth. Bat has for centuries been a treasured medicine of the Aztec, the Toltec, the Tolucan, and the Mayan peoples. Bat embraces the idea of the shamanistic death. Now, we have talked about the shamanistic death before, and different tribes had um, different ways of doing it. But basically, that you dropped all of your worldly goods, you went away somewhere, usually somewhere far off that was remote, and that some folks were literally buried in the ground, not covered up, but dug a hole, crawled in, and spent the night in there. And so what they saw and what they felt in that ritual death, so that was Bat with the rebirth, coming out of the cave into the light. So even though they don't stay in the light for long, they hunt, at night with their radar. So they don't hunt in the daytime. So they don't see like the rest of folks. But anyway, we've got gentleness and rebirth. Does that mean a gentle rebirth? We'll see. The next one down is mountain lion, number 17 in the book. And offhand, I can't remember. Mountain lion. Keep going, Dave. Leadership. There you go. So now this is leadership, but this one's upside down. So mountain lion medicine involves lessons on the use of power in leadership. It is the ability to lead without insisting that others follow. It is the understanding that all beings are potential leaders in their own ways. All beings are potential leaders in their own ways. The use and abuse of power in a position of influence are part of the cat's great medicine. Now it's upside down, so let's find out what that is. If the mountain lion card is reversed, you may be playing with fire. Whoops. A leader who tries to lead through tyranny or dictatorship has long forgotten the medicine of truth. Through the reversal of this medicine, you may be tricked into believing that nothing else has validity except the ideas created by yourself. In other words, nobody else's opinion matters, just yours. If you are avoiding taking your place of leadership, it could be because the whole idea scares you silly. So it may be that, you're shirking your duties as a leader. If this is a normal state of affairs for one who has never been a leader before. So with the gentleness of the deer and the rebirth of the bat, and with mountain lion having medicine about leadership, at this point I'm inclined to say that, there are people who, those two cards are back. Wait, come back here. That the state of leadership is being learned. Many of us have never had to boss a bunch of people around before. And when they're hollering and pointing their finger and all, and you still got to get her done. So buffalo is prayer and abundance. So you're coming up with leadership that's a little funky upside down, right? But it's coming into buffalo with prayer and abundance that's also upside down. In a Lakota tradition, it was the white buffalo cap woman who brought the sacred pipe to the people and taught them to pray. So, headed up Sacred Mountain, which is clear, by the way, and Bat is explaining rebirth, and Mountain Lion is talking about leadership, and now Buffalo is talking about prayer and abundance. So the pipe was, the bowl was the woman and the stem was the man. And so you lit the pipe, and between the two of them, you smoked. It was through both genders, and offered your prayers up to the Creator. So all animals are sacred, but in many traditions, the white buffalo is the most sacred. Buffalo was the major source of sustenance for the Plains Indians. It gave meat for food and hides for clothing, warm and soft buffalo hides for robes for long winters, and hooves for glue. Because of its desire to give the gift that its body provided, and because of its willingness to be used on earth for the highest good before entering the hunting grounds of the spirit, buffalo did not readily stampede nor run from the hunters. So, in other words, buffalo gave itself to mankind to keep mankind fresh and as a daisy. But upside down card says, to receive buffalo upside down is a signal that you have forgotten to seek help when it has been needed. How about that? So we got a rebirth. Mountain Lion's talking about leadership with its upside down. And now here's buffalo upside down that says right out of the chute, you didn't ask for help when you needed it. So if it's trying to learn about leadership, we should ask somebody who has led folks and who's had a good outcome. So it could also be that have you forgotten the eternal partner of the Great Spirit? I know there are folks who, even to this day, it's like, have you asked the spirits to help you out when kind of limping along here? Well, no, well, the spirits are all around you. God is not in some lofty place. God's all around us, reach out and touch. So it might be, am I pushing myself too fast in the physical world and keeping myself from seeing the importance of the reunion with the source of all life? In other words, people are too involved with their cell phone to go connect with Mother Earth again and to the universe. That's simple. And a lot of people ain't doing that. So the connection is lost. have I forgotten to honor the ways of others and to afford them the same respect that I wish to receive for myself? In other words, they'll be beating people up, you know, when basically, and there are a lot of folks who don't, don't see eye to eye with this honor and respect thing. They feel they're better than us, and to heck with it, right? And that's a hard thing to deal with. So there's upside down buffalo. Now the next one is, um, and I think buffalo is supposed to be right side up. Let me read buffalo's up right side up too. But basically, that we need to make sure that we stay in touch with Great Spirit and with um, dear, the first card and in the list of these cards, talking about going to Sacred Mountain and beating the demon, and that the path is open for all folks, you know, to go to Sacred Mountain and talk to the Creator anytime we want to. And then here's Buffalo talking about that all animals are sacred, and to use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner and to give praise for the richness of life to be shared with all races, all creeds, all creatures, all nations, and all of life. It means smoking for others so that their needs are met, praying for the good of all things in harmony, and accepting the great mystery as part of that harmony. So that's a biggie. If you pulled the Buffalo card, you may be asked to use your energy in prayer, and this time may be. You may also be called upon to be an instrument of someone else's answer to a prayer. In other words, you show up somewhere and say, "Hi, how you doing?" And they go, "Oh my God, thank you. I need some help with something. It's only going to take a minute. Can you help me, please?" It's something like that. So but there's Buffalo. Now the last one in line is the first one in the book, and that's Eagle, number one. And you can always think of Eagle as looking out in a way. Eagle is spirit. Eagle medicine is the power of the Great Spirit, the connection to the divine. So now Buffalo's just telling us, to stay connected. And Mountain Lion is about leadership without, by leading by example. Bat saying there's going to be a rebirth, and Deer is saying, the path to Sacred Mountain's open. So here we are with Eagle with the spirit. The feathers of eagle are considered to be the most sacred of all healing tools. They've been used for centuries by shamans to cleanse the auras of patients. If you pulled the symbol, eagle is reminding you to take heart and gather your courage. Ooh. So in all of this, at the end of this, is you take heart and gather courage. Wow, that's a strong way to wrap up these cards. I lost my place. Oh, um, Take heart and gather your courage, for the universe is presenting you with an opportunity to soar above the mundane levels of your life. Ooh. And learning to fiercely attack your personal fears of the unknown, the wings of your soul will be supported by the ever present breeze, which are the breath of the Great Spirit. I love that line. I do. I do. Now, it just so happens that the eagle card's upside down. So if you pulled eagle in the reverse, you have forgotten your power. So here you are, buffalo's giving you good medicine and saying smoke the pipe, and honor. Mountain lion is like, hey, did you forget how to be a leader? Also, buffalo's like, hey, did you forget to ask for help? Remember, bats saying a rebirth, and the gentleness of deer got us all started on this path. So you may have failed to recognize the light that is always available for those who seek illumination. That's just a good line. You may have failed to recognize the light that is always available for those who seek illumination. And see, and that's what Deer says. The path to sacred mountains always open. Fear is gone because that's what Deer had no fear. The little fawn didn't fear the demon. And so, and that's how the deer, the little fawn, beat the demon. So now that's how sacred the path is open. So now here, fear again. So at the end of all of this, it's like, so maybe there's fear to be spiritual, fear to understand what the spirit means, fear to accept the creator as, as part of the great mystery. So on some level, eagle is telling you to seek higher ground on which to build your nest. The nest is the home of the heart and cannot remain in a swamp. Eagle's nest is high in the mountains where the air is clean and movement free. It may be your time for a vision quest yourself so that you can commune with the Great Spirit. Now, there you are, commune with the Great Spirit, and Deer's telling you the path is open to Sacred Mountain, and Bat's in for the rebirth. Mountain Lion upside down is talking about, the leadership, and Buffalo is about, smoking the sacred pipe and offering your prayers up. And I mean, wow, that's just some interesting cards. Now, I wasn't sure about this card. It's links. It's number 18. And so sometimes them ones when we least expect, actually, have meaning. So here's the links. What was that? Oh. Links is all about secrets. It is said that if you want to find out a secret, ask Link's medicine. Unfortunately, it is difficult to get the silent links to speak. To be confronted by the powerful medicine of links signifies that you do not know something about yourself or others. So, in all of this, and I think it fits, you know, there's a secret about you or somebody else. Not necessarily bad now. It's just, and it's probably something that you need to know to help them out. So the only way that you can coax information about yourself out of a Lynx medicine person, in case you have forgotten where your keys are. Let's see. Wait. All right. Lynx medicine is a very specific type of clairvoyance. If this medicine is strong in you, you will get mental pictures and dreams concerning other people and the exact things they have hidden, either from themselves or from others. So there's links at the end of this, but it seems that the most of what's being said is about prayer and about communion with the Great Spirit. So it may be very well that the secrets lie somewhere about the about the Great Spirit and about learning about it. So, but I think that's what these cards are about. Reconnect with Great Spirit. There are messages there, and if you can, set yourself up for a session of rebirth. But you know, anytime that deer is in it, it's always about gentleness. So this isn't about a war. This is about learning. So there you go. What do you think?
I think that was a good message.
Yeah, there's that, and they are connected. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here looking at them, and I'm like, yep, they're connected.
Yep, absolutely. You know,
So beware of your spiritualism. Don't be afraid, because that's what deer said, you know, cleared. Also, you know, eagle the same way. Don't be afraid. And so, yeah, okie dokie. So I hope that means something to you all. It seems to
I'm
be
sure it does. The right person will get the right message.
it seems to be a good message to the universe, positive. You know, anytime I see deer, the path is open to Sacred Mountain. The path is
That's
open to
right.
Sacred Mountain. You know, and if anything, it's a reminder. The path is open to Sacred Mountain, y'all. You know, go talk to the creator. I was listening to something today, and it was like, you know, the only way that you can directly speak to Jesus is through your priest or minister. The only way that you can commune with God is through your minister, your pastor, your spiritual, your spiritual advisor, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think
see,
that's
and see, the cards say the path is open. You don't need anybody to intercede for you. You can speak directly to the Creator any dadgum time you want to. We don't have to go through somebody. I grew up as a Catholic, and everything had to go through somebody. All your prayers had to go through Mother Mary, or it had to go through Joseph, or it had to go through this, or you had to say a prayer, or it had to go through the Monsignor, or it had to get, you know, but you couldn't talk straight to God, because that wasn't allowed, you know.
that's right.
And it's still not allowed, I don't think, in the Catholic Church, because they don't believe it that way. You gotta, you know, you gotta speak to somebody on their behalf. They'll talk to God for you.
That's
And
right.
I just, over my many 72 years of, and over 65 years of, you know, trudging along trying to learn about the spiritualism, I've learned that the, you know, Sacred Mountain is open for all of us. and that the Creator is, right next to us. We can talk to him anytime we want to. So this foolishness of religions insisting that the only way you can speak to God in the heavens is through a priest is baloney.
That's because they want to hold control. What kind of religion would want you to say, well, you don't need us? You can just talk to God. Then what? Why would you need to go to church? Why would you need to have a priest? Why would you? Why would
Exactly.
you have to have all these other people involved? If
So, oh, there he goes. So they made it up. So through all the years, of learning in my shaman journey, it's that, the Creator is right there. You don't have to make this stuff up, um, and you can make your own prayers, and they will go straight, to the Creator. Um, you can follow the message of deer, and tell other people that the pathway is open. The only thing that keeps us from the Creator is fear. The only thing that keeps us from going to the top of Sacred Mountain is fear. That's all.
that's right, that is right.
So if we face
So
our
yeah, and as long
spiritual
as
fears,
see, but that's the thing too, is the church, the religion keeps you in fear. So, well, you can't be talking to God. You can't look at him. You can't even look at him because
don't
you
look
know,
up.
yeah, exactly. And so because of that, you got to talk to the priest, and he's got to talk to such and such, work its way up the chain, and so yeah, it's a big. To me, I feel like it's a big scam.
Yeah, so
It
the
keeps their
message is,
control on you.
don't have no fear, and go ahead and talk
Yeah,
to the Creator. Have conversations, and if you get
yeah.
an answer back, pay attention. And a
Hmm.
lot of times that answer is not what you want to hear. But if you want to follow what Great Spirit has laid out for the big plan, that big plan, right? um,
Right.
that you should listen. You should listen to your heart, and listen to whether or not it's like, well, you know, my heart says I should do this, but I just think it's too much trouble. That'll get you into trouble. So there are many times in life when you'll have opportunities or something, and you decide not to do it, or not to go, or not to call, or not to something. And then it might not be the next day, but at some point in the future, you're going to go, I wished I had taken and made the effort to go do this thing or call somebody or something, right? And so,
We're doing so good.
yeah, but we're almost done here. We've made it. It's a little sketchy, but we've made it, bouncing back and forth. So made it through the story without a major glick. So,
That's right. That's what counts. That's right.
and made it through the cards almost. I only had to do it once.
So let's wrap it up. You got a show tonight.
Um, if my cell phone will connect.
All right. Well, with that, we should probably wrap it up before we get snaggle-toothed again. But great message, great cards, and good story. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We'll pick up where we left off last week with more great stories. And remember, we got a show on Saturday night. We'll be talking more about man.
Well, there he goes. didn't quite make it to the end before he cut out again. that that's funny. But what do you expect from StreamYard, which is a free program? So
Yeah.
we
So,
thank you, StreamYard.
yes. Well, I'm back. And before we go, join me Saturday for another great show. Don't forget to get your Milky Way Soul Tribe shirt. Descriptions in the link below. Nina's Streamlabs store. Get your own Milky Way. What Scott even says, be the frequency you want to receive on it. Which we're going to end on that note tonight. Go out and do something nice for somebody because, hey, we all love you and you should love everybody else. With that, be the frequency you want to receive, everybody. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.